Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Japanese Shabaru podcast. We're gonna be starting off with Lord of Mysteries, episode 5. So, this episode starts off kind of like really nice. Like, you see this beautiful play starting to play, bodies getting dropped, so it's instantly making you think, okay, so this is being parallel to something else, which we don't find out later on that it isn't, but it's actually part of the play. But it's this is like all going on as Dune and Klein start to show up, and it's like they're really looking forward to kind of investigating this guy known as Triss, which he is kind of like a hero that people look up to, and he's very well known. They figured he had some there's something going on with them, especially after we find out what happened in the later on in the episode with somebody. But interesting enough, we do find out that Dune, after his encounter with the true creator, or with the creator, uh, we he is kind of weak, and obviously he's not like one of those people with that strength that's weak, but like he really got hit with something severely damaging to him, which you can already tell like the creator's gonna be a big problem later on, or like it's hinting that the creator will, if we ever meet the creator, is gonna be a really big deal. And we do have other uh cults in here. Obviously we have the what's it called, the demonist sector, which is like the main uh order or like secret society that this episode kind of focuses on introducing. And so I'll just go over like the what the demonist sect is. It's a demonist sect is like a group that worships the primordial demoness and believes concealed entity is the true successor to the creator. So like this primordial demoness is what this cult views as like the successor to the creator. So interesting stuff. And basically the the primordial demoness is believed to have been nurtured by chaos as the oldest one born from the creator. So this is essentially like the child of the creator, like the one that the creator actually raised up and nurtured. Good stuff. And it in this order, like the high ranking members are all female, which we later find out why that is. And it it's really interesting because this demonist sect also has like the assassin pathway. And before it got big, like they only allowed people within the bloodline of this demonist sect to actually inhabit member positions. So really interesting that now it's gotten bigger, so now obviously it had to expand. But back to the story. So there's this thing that happened called the Alfalfia tragedy, which is like this ship just went missing and everybody ended up being either missing or killed. So one of the actual surviving persons from that went missing actually turned up thanks to Klein and his ability to, as the seer, to be able to locate them and find them. Um, but so this guy Mayer kind of is like still traumatized by that experience, and he's telling Klein how he constantly sees he keeps constantly having the same nightmare, which is he's in the boats, he's seeing everybody just off themselves and throw kids overboard, all this like crazy stuff. And Klein is able to visit this dreamlike state, and he notices that Triss is there. So now we find out why Dune and Klein were there at the play. They're trying to, and why they're investigating him is because he is heavily involved in this Alfafia tragedy, and they're just trying to gather up evidence to really put him under and be able to capture him and detain him because right now their evidence kind of lacks a lot of concreteness. And yeah, so like we have we have Triss later on, just after the play. Triss is obviously, we find out Triss is like obviously behind it, because the story does go on, and he meets one of the demonist sect like higher ups, and he is given a book with the procedure to acquire the sequence 7 of the assassin pathway, which is the witch. So really interesting that the assassin pathway leads into the witch. I'm interested to find out what sequence 8 is, but no, yeah. So that ends up really turning the tables, because now we know that the play was paralleling something, and that was the play that Triss put on was paralleling the Alfalfa tragedy, or it was like based off of what happened in that to a degree. And Klein, obviously noticing all these things with Triss and the guy's dream, he starts hearing once again Hornissus being mentioned, and he keeps getting sent to this place where it's like, okay, well, what this Hornissus is probably important. Why do I gotta be in this place? Is it gonna help me with my transmigration, which we know is still a key part of Klein continuing in the story? He's in the Nighthawks. He's trying to find a way to get back to his original world. And we have him and the guy that gave him the potion, I forget his name, they go into this underground place, which really interesting, because now we have a whole ecosystem where the church allows this kind of like underground place where people can gather supplies for potions to become beyonders, which really interesting that they mentioned the church again. Like the church has a very high position, or like has very much control over like how people become beyonders. So it makes me wonder, like, if the church has to approve a lot of the stuff with the beyonders, or like if the church itself is corrupt and has kind of like a monopoly over all the beyonder sequences. Just really interesting stuff. One of the people from this underground market is known as the Monster, and he instantly, I think he's going to be important because he has a high spirit perception, and he instantly noticed that Klein had the stench of death. So like he kind of already know. It seemingly what Klein said was that he probably already knows that he died and came back. So it'll be interesting to see if this guy is important later on, or like if we're gonna keep meeting and finding out why he has such high level perception. But also, one of the key things why they went in there in the first place is also Triss. They went in there to try to find Triss because they figured he was gonna be there at some point, and they did find him, but some other people got to him beforehand. But even though like they were chasing him and they tried to corner him, eventually they ended up losing him with Triss going into this store, and then a bunch of people just coming out, and one of the women's that kind of like looks like him kind of stumbles up on Klein, and that's as bad as much as the Triss investigation goes, and about as anything else goes. Things start to kind of quiet down, which I love. That at least for Klein, there's like these like 2 weeks or like close to 3 weeks, that period where he was just kind of like living life, and it was just like telling us how like things in the fog have shifted, with the Hangman being more acknowledging of him, and how he's slowly getting better at hand-to-hand combat, and he's slowly gathering pieces, and it's just, and how he's getting a raise, all this like day-to-day life that just gets kind of brushed over. But we get enough to understand that Klein is just enjoying life at the moment, until eventually a lot of things start happening, and the death toll suddenly starts going up by a lot, which after we investigate, like they go and investigate with Leonard and Dune, they've come to realize that, or, well, at least Leonard and Klein noticed that a lot of the people that were dying have to, or were already on the path of like uh near of like almost dying anyway. So like there's it was just that their life was getting cut short before they were eventually there before they were close to it. So now the Nighthawks have to, they realize that, okay, well, if somebody's doing that, it's probably some like witch or something that is putting on this curse to take away people's life force. And Leonard and Klein kind of look at one another, and Leonard tells Klein, "Listen, you know I got secrets. I know you got secrets, but as long as the Nighthawks don't, nothing happens to the Nighthawks and they're not put in any danger, I won't pry into your secret, and I won't really come forward and ask about what you're hiding." So Leonard is just really such an interesting character. He's definitely stronger than what he tells others are, and he definitely has a secret or two that's so intriguing. Maybe he's like Klein and he transmigrated here, or maybe he's just from a different place. It's just, or maybe he just is hiding for a certain reason. Maybe he's conducting his own secret investigations. I don't know. Maybe he's also part of a secret order that we're not privy to. There's just a lot of stuff with Leonard that I find quite intriguing, and I can't wait to get more into his backstory and to really find out more about his character. He's like the only other character aside from Klein that I'm really interested in at the moment. But yeah, they finally find the place where the rituals are being taken place and where the souls are getting sucked out of. And turns out it's the woman that Klein ran into while they were chasing Triss. And some of the stuff that happened where like they find her and she turns invisible, and the fighting that goes on is like so top tier animation, like so beautiful to look at. The sequences are so so great, and they just flow so well, and just the whole 3D atmosphere also, like as they're getting into it, is breathtaking. Like probably some of the best animation that I've seen in this year so far. But yeah, Dune kind of like goes off into the house where the woman is at, and he gets a taste of the primordial demoness as this witch kind of conjures her up for a bit, but Leonard is able to like fight it off. So we know that it's strong because Dune was just like, okay, well, he was kind of like out of breath afterwards, and then Leonard kind of takes his stab at her, and he's also getting put through the ringer as the witch kind of like does this thing with the rose and it pokes him, and then he like gives him a taste of like the witch's curse, as she says, and it doesn't really end up doing much to him. We do start to see a bit of Leonard and what he fears, but then I think as soon as he like got rid of his fingernail, he was able to like undo the curse. So like pain undoes the curse to a degree, or maybe he has just high tolerance for attacks like that. But yeah, when Clint is finally able to join in the mansion and see the mirror, he realizes, oh, this woman turns out to be a lot look a lot like Triss. So then we come to realize that the assassin pathway eventually leads to the witch, right? And the reason why the demon is sick have such high-ranking women is due to the fact that once they go into the sequence of the witch, they essentially transform into women. So really great world building, really great action in this episode. Just really more well-round characters, and yeah, Leonard just kind of is really intriguing to me. Triss is probably gonna come back at some point because he does escape from them once again, and he's greeted with a lot of like people trying to light up his cigarette. So I'm really interested in more of Lord of Mysteries, but I do think there's like certain discussion to be had about like how fast paced it is. I think it does get like a lot of the people really turned off by it because they can't follow along. They're not like pausing to like really digest what happened or what's happening, and due to the fact that it's not in dub, they have to like try to read a lot of fast paced like dialogue, and also like a lot of the characters don't seem as interesting. And this series does is just bringing in a lot of like world building and a lot of story to it, so it's a lot to keep up with. But I think if people like give it enough time, or like once the dub comes out and they can really focus on what's happening, it'll be a lot better. But as of right now, the episode 5, I'm rating it a 9 out of 10.